the Dharma journey, Brad. Pleased to have you.
Thanks, Briar. Happy to be here. Happy to be chatting with you. It's been a while.
So stoked to have you here. And Brad is a world-renowned level 3 ParaYoga teacher. He's an Ayurvedic Specialist, meditation teacher. I think I got all of those. Is there any more that I've not said correct?
Oh, that covers some ground. That'll do. That's great.
I was laughing. I said, I hope one day I have all of these titles. It sounds quite good.
A lot of work. Geez, it's a lot of long hours. That's good to have them. It's great to have them.
Yeah, I think you've got, I think I saw on your website over 20 hours teaching, Tantra Yoga, Ayurveda.
I've got over 20 hours for sure, but
no, 20
I have over 20. Yeah, I've got 20 now. I'm hitting 22. I believe if we're in 2021, about 22 years ago, I started first teaching Hatha Yoga. So it's building up. I've been saying a lot of 20 years of a lot of things lately, which is sort of making me realize my age for sure, which is great. I love it. I love this age.
It's all the wisdom coming, really embodying. And I'm really honored to have you on. Like I shared before, you kind of inspired my own Dharmic journey, and we met a couple of years ago at the practice, and you were teaching some Ayurveda and yoga there, and I think I just remember like I need to have a session with you. And at the time I it wasn't a priority on my to-do list, but I felt in my heart I was like I need to do it, even though I had a little bit of financial issues. It's like I just knew I needed to do a session with you, and that kind of sparked that curiosity for me, and really kind of opened the doorway to my own journey into Ayurveda and to teaching Ayurveda. So that's why I knew at some point I had to kind of honor you and say thanks so much for inspiring me, and just the way that you show up in such a laid back kind of attitude, but really you're doing incredible things in the world. So yeah, I'm super stoked to invite you on and share that wisdom with others listening.
Thank you. And yeah, you're welcome. I love if it inspires someone, then half my job's done, I think.
Yeah, you can finish now. Your job's done.
Yeah, I'm inspired. Good, I can go home. No, it's great. I love to see people light up about these teachings. It's unreal. It's like I know what they've done for me. So if I can just light someone else up and get them in the stream, and then I kind of know they're okay. If they're just in the stream enough, they're in. It's like we've just got to. There you go. Here's the stream of consciousness on your way, and then they're golden. So it's great that I can help and spark that in people for sure.
Yeah, and I mean the whole reason for doing this podcast is not to convert people to the tradition, even though I know you've been initiated into the Sri Vidya lineage, which we'll definitely speak about a little bit about the sister sciences, which are yoga, tantra, and Ayurveda. But really, before we start, I'd love to share with the listeners. I know a lot of them have worked and done teacher trainings with ParaYoga or with the practice. So some of them may know you already, but I would love to kind of have a little bit of background, like how did you get into these traditional teachings, and what inspired you to go on this path of liberation?
Yeah, I try and think of a different story when I get asked this question every time, but the story doesn't change. I try to go back to a different point. I'm like, how can I make it different each time? It started really early in life, in a sense of I was really interested in the mind. I had sort of experiences as a young kid, as we all do, but I had some seemingly paranormal, but they were just sort of more psychic, out there things which were a little scary at the time. I would see things expand and contract, and then and I used to really contemplate death a lot, and I had fear, but I had a lot of fear around it. This is as a young kid, and I'm not seemingly getting close to death at that point. Well, you never know, but I just had a lot of interest in these other, what it all was, what we were. And I used to spend a lot of time on my own. So I contemplated a lot of things, I was quite an introvert as a kid. I played a lot and had a lot of friends, but I spent a lot of time inward. And some of it was really, you know, I enjoyed being on my own. But there was also lots of other things that sort of would come into the field that were sort of troubling my mind. And so that was there earlier on. I had this hypersensitivity to energy, I think, and I felt like I was experiencing things that I hadn't had explained to me. So it was in there, and you don't learn them at school. And if your parents aren't sort of this way inclined, which my dad was a little bit, you know, he had some sort of bush spiritual vibe going that he knew, because he had similar things as a kid. So he would help me along with my mind. So it was there earlier on. And then, you know, then I got into martial arts at a really young age, and it was partially because my older brother used to torment the heck out of me, and I wanted to kick his ass and and not be bullied at school anywhere, you know. So I got into martial arts. It was a bit of a cover up, I guess, to just be strong and be able to handle myself physically, to cover up the inner sensitivity. But I was also really, I was amazed at the spiritual element of it, you know, the older wisdom Miyagis and things like that, you know, the old teachers, the old Chinese Kung Fu teachers, or anyone that had these sort of inner powers. So it started then. My interest really started then. I was interested in the physical element. I started you know, I was obsessed. I could do the splits from a really early age, and I would train on my own for hours, and I trained till almost to black belt before I was about 13 in certain arts. And so it sort of started there. We did a lot of deep breathing, and I did a lot of practicing on my own, which was what I look back now and think was a lot more yogic than most of the yoga beam practices. I was sitting on my own doing lots of deep stretching and breathing and staying in poses and sort of having these experiences in deep stretching postures and breathing my way through them. So when I think back, it was actually quite deep practice in a way. And so that was the earlier sort of imprint, you know. And then as I got older and the teen years kicked in and the hormones kicked in, so did the patterning of the coping mechanisms I'd created as a kid. And then you start trying to bring them into teens and adulthood, and they don't work so well. So, you know, so I had a lot of suppressed emotions, and you know, one thing led to another. And then, you know, start off partying a little bit because it's fun and everyone else is doing, you're experimenting. But it's like, wow, this is a great way to escape the uncomfortableness within me. You know, those intense, because I have a lot of intent, as much as I get this classified as this laid back sort of teacher, and I am pretty laid back, but I'm a pretty intense guy as well. You know, I'm a full-blown pitcher, firecracker. I do have, you know, this other element of a calm, sort of a peaceful warrior, but there is this fierceness in me. And when it's turned inward, you know, and suppressed inward, there's this lot of intense emotion, you know, and a lot of suppressed anger, because I am this peaceful sort of vibe person in a sense, but I had a lot of trouble coming at me earlier on. So I suppressed a lot of this anger and pain and sadness. So, you know, as most of us in this, you know, in these Vedic realms know, that will present itself at some point in your life if you haven't dealt with them. So that all came out in the late teens, and sure enough, I got into, you know, drugs and alcohol. Initially just partying, as we all do, but it became like a pretty chronic lifestyle. And I started, and, you know, then I found weed pretty early on. And that was a great thing, you know, partially to experiment with the other realms, but it was also, you know, just suppressing pain, basically. So after many years of that, you know, and it just got more and more and more intense over the years. In the mid-20s, I was sort of full blown, you know, it was a lot more. It went from sort of partying every weekend into, okay, and smoking, you know, weed every night and every day, basically, but then just big parties on the weekends and more party drugs. And then it started to seep into weekdays, and then it was just like a whole lifestyle in the end. You know, somehow I maintained a job and work. I sort of maintained to some degree, some kind of stability within all that madness. But, you know, eventually it just breaks down, and eventually it doesn't work, and your life starts sort of going down paths. You know, certain actions, they all have different reactions. And, you know, that sort of led me into a pretty dark arena, which is, you know, when I got to the peak bottom end of that dark arena, that's when I started coming back to the martial arts. I actually did start practicing martial arts again. And very quickly after, it turned into yoga. You know, I'd practiced yoga a little bit in my early 20s, you know, and here and there, and people thought I'd be, girlfriends thought I'd be great at it, or one particular one thought I'd be great because I was flexible and I was a man and I was built, this would be great for you. So it was presented back to me then, and I just, it sort of grabbed me at a different level. So it transitioned from martial arts into the Vedic arts, because I knew there was such a massive field of wisdom within it and beyond sort of just the physical realm of it. So that's when it really just landed with me, and it was then to be the means in which I was going to heal my deep wounds from this life and then previous lives, when I sort of found out about all that stuff. So that's how I got into it. I was suffering greatly, mentally, emotionally, and physically. You know, when your mind breaks down, and I have a strong mind, and it hung on for a long time. But when the mind sort of starts breaking down, then the body breaks down very quickly after that. It'll hang on. If you can hang on your mind, the body copes relatively well. I mean, it doesn't like it, but it holds up, especially at that age.
Yeah.
When the mind slipped, the body started breaking down, and then it was like, I don't have long left on this path. Something has to change, you know. It was just this feeling, it was this intense feeling of like, if you don't change your path, we're going to take you off the earth. That was the feeling I had. If you don't change direction soon, it's all over. And I got some big messages. I had a pretty big car accident and was hanging out. I was sort of in some circuits of some pretty heavy duty players in the underground world, and people, you know, there was murders and things happening around and just crazy stuff. And it got to a point where I was really just wondering. It seemed normal at the time, but when I stepped out of it, it was like, how did I get there? How did I get into that realm? Which I look at as invaluable now, but at the time I'm like, how was that part of my journey? It makes sense now. It's amazing to reflect on it, but anyway, I can go off on that story a bit, but that's that's what inspired me. You know, the suffering really forced me into a corner, and when I'm forced into a corner, I always put all my effort into how do I get out of here, you know. And that was just an intense trap of like, you know, I need a lot of help, and I need a powerful system and a lot of help initially to get me out of here.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of our teachers, Rod, is a great quote. It says, like, if you resist learning your lessons in their gentler forms, life is more than prepared to teach you in forever ending hardship.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, well, I did. That's what I did for years. I sort of half-assed tried things, and life just kept showing up with all these events that were going to tell me otherwise, you know. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, life's a great teacher if you just listen to it, for sure.
And what was the point where you, you know, what was it, a certain age, or is it a certain teacher, or a certain style of practice, or, you know, what was the kind of the thing that really excelled your spiritual growth, and also like that part of you that wanted to wake up and change the direction of your life?
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of I'd had spiritual guides early in my 20s, sort of before I went into the dark world, that really inspired me. There was actually a guy in Brisbane. He stands out because he was sort of one of the first. He was a spiritual guide, a very spiritual guy that did Reiki and did, you know, all his esoteric healings. And I do give a lot of credit to Reiki in a sense, you know, and I'm laughing as I'm saying it. But in my early days, it was like I had so much energy in me that I had some sessions with him that were so profound in my healing and so profound in me connecting back with spirit, that I actually credit quite a bit to him. And I don't think he was a yogi in a sense. He did spiritual healing, and he helped, you know, he saw my spirit guide, who was a samurai warrior at the time. And then I had all these serendipitous things going on with that. And it sort of explained my addiction, my obsession with martial arts. So I think that really planted a seed. But then later on, it was actually in rehabilitation. I did a really intense rehabilitation program in '99, and I met another yoga teacher that was in there, an older woman. She was in there as well. She was sort of struggling with I think mostly alcohol, but was an amazing woman. You know, she was an incredible yogi and yoga teacher, and she was also alongside me in rehab. but she, I think, set me off really on the path in a sense. She started teaching me some of deeper teachings. I was already pretty accustomed to stretching and the physical realms, but she started introducing more Raj Yoga concepts and a lot more refined yogic breaths. You know, I'd learned a lot of breathing and chi breathing and things through Kung Fu and other arts, but there was just these more refined things, and meditation started to kick in. So I started practicing daily there. It was part of the program anyway, in this rehabilitation program. And I got so encouraged off everyone because I was so good at yoga, and they all just saw me deep stretching. So I think that helped that I was good at it. So I'm like, oh, I'm good at this yoga thing. You know, I look back and laugh at that now, but it was also, I think, a starting point because I knew the spiritual offerings that were in there. I didn't know to what extent at that point, but I knew there was something in there. And I was already good at the asana part, so I didn't have to catch up or go through that awkward stage. And then people were just sort of really encouraging me to start teaching it. And I had a lot under my belt then. So I actually started teaching in rehab.
Wow.
And then, so I started teaching classes in there, or just teaching the other students. And I was doing a lot of meditation and a lot of visualization in there. So when I finished that program, it wasn't long after that I got back into martial arts actually then, but then it wasn't that long after that somehow yoga just kept presenting. It just kept sort of showing up. And it was only a few years later I jumped into, I just, you know, as the way I do things, I found the most extreme training I could find in the world, which was happened to be here in Byron Bay, which was a 9-month-long intensive. I thought I wanted this to be my medium, and I want eventually this to be part of my career and also my lifestyle. And this will be a great way to really intensify the learning process. So around that period, 99, the rehab thing, and then the next couple of years, just a number of different things that, you know, and then I met a guy in Seattle who owned a studio. He approached me at a park. I was stretching and he approached me at a park and sort of was impressed with my flexibility as a big guy again. So this was the opener, the big guy, flexible guy. But he invited me to his studio and he encouraged me to become a teacher as well. And so I just had all this encouragement to become a teacher. And I'm like, if I'm going to become a teacher in this, I better learn a lot more. Sure, I'm good at it. And that's probably all you need to be a teacher, is to be good at asana, you know. So that part was down, but I'm not good at just faking it till I make it. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to be a teacher, then I better go figure out what this thing is. And yeah, in 2003, I did the 9-month training in Byron Bay, and that was it. You know, then it was on. It was full steam ahead from that point. So there's a few years period there, I think, that where all these things happened. It kept coming at me, and I kept just going, yes, okay, great. And then so that was really inspiring. And then it was a few years later that I moved straight back to the US. I'd been living in the US in year 2000, came back for the training in 2003 and 2004, got a teaching job back in the States after that. Long story, I won't go through it, but lots of serendipitous little bits and pieces in there that would be an interesting story at some point, maybe for me to say anyway. I don't know about for anyone to hear. And then in the US, I was sort of looking for a next level teacher because I'm a traditionalist. So I was like, I had amazing teachers in my training environment, but they're not near me anymore. And I actually want someone that's really established in tradition. And it didn't take that long. You know, I tried maybe one other teacher. I was sort of looking at shadow yoga and Shandor because a lot of my teachers had studied with Shandor, and I was pretty intrigued by his sort of hard-assed edge, you know, this sort of exclusive sort of club, underground yoga club. So that sort of was, you know,
the bad boy.
Bad boy shit, yeah. Can I swear on here?
Yeah, of course.
I try not to swear too much. And then I just on, you know, good old computer, Tantra USA, and I say this, you know, every time, but you know, Tantra USA, to type that in when we get up here and see what comes up. And somehow, you know, you get all sorts of massage, you know, prostate massage therapists and sex groups and all that. But somehow Rod Stryker came up, and man, just through chance, you know, and this is just a part where I'm sitting in our little cabin at 10,500 feet in the Rockies, a little cabin with a satellite and a computer, Rod Stryker, ParaYoga. I'm like, I've heard of him. I wasn't really aware of the yoga celebrity scene in the US, but something drew me into Rod, being a man, I guess, and being a sort of a middle-aged man, and sort of wasn't, you know, and I don't mean to sound judgmental, but he wasn't dressed. He didn't have a, or you know what I'm saying. It wasn't cloaked in all the gear, you know. And I have nothing against it, but I just wanted my teacher to be down to earth and be in the world, and have all this wisdom. And he fit the bill seemingly. And then I went into I saw he was doing a Yoga Sutras training in a little school hall across the mountain. He had just moved across the mountain from me, you know, a couple of years after I'd moved there. So I drove over and met Rod, and right away we sort of just had this connection as male yogis, I guess, and just similar kind of guys, I guess. And then after the training, that was it. It was just like, well, thank God, I've found my teacher. I've found the tradition. It's all, boom, there it is, you know. And that was in 2007, I think I met Rod. So, you know, it's getting on now. But yeah, that was another level. Then it was just like, wow, okay, now things are intensifying in the way I want them to. And that was the start of that. That was the meeting Rod, and you know, and then that's been quite a journey in itself. So it just sort of escalated, I guess, you know, from there.
Domino effect. Maybe you can speak about that. Like, do you believe that you know, the Dharma journey, or this, you know, journey into, you know, finding ourselves or finding purpose? Do you believe that that's kind of overrated? Do you believe that we really do need a purpose, or is the purpose of life just to be alive in the present moment? Because there's always contradictory sides to this purpose quest, you know.
Yeah. Well, different traditions, different beliefs, you know. My answer is always it's the Ayurvedic key answer. It depends. I think it greatly depends on the individual. But my personal belief is we do have a Dharma. We do have a purpose in the world, because I feel like the Purusharthas, which are the soul's four desires, they're innate in our being. They're like pre-programmed in our soul to go into a body, and that's what inspires us to do anything in the world. So I believe we all have a purpose, even if it's just to be present is your purpose. Maybe that is your Dharma. Just be 100% present and then let everything flow. But it's still a purpose. You know, for me personally, I like to have something active, because I'm a very fiery, active person. I have a lot of Shakti, so it's good if I can do something with it, and something hopefully constructive and helpful to the universe, you know, or destructive at some point, which it was for quite a number of years, but you know, the polarities. But just through my own experience, having a purpose, and just, you know, over the years, hearing people talk, and I listened to a lot of and talked to a lot of older people. I mean, you just watch it in older people. When they lose purpose, they lose their life goes. Their life force leaves them. They either get ill or they die. So I think there's a big lesson in that. And I mean, I also know friends with no real purpose, no fulfilling sort of soul purpose. And I've got friends that have more money and more abundance in the material realm than I care to even mention, and are miserable, absolutely miserable, and drug addicts. And I feel a lot of it's because they haven't connected with a purpose. Well, their purpose would be better, but even a purpose is good, you know, until you can find your purpose and what that is, and then you really light up. If you have a purpose, great. It's some motivating force to get up and do something. But if you can have a purpose that's completely aligned with your soul's intent, that's when you start really feeling alive on a different level. And I can just speak from experience, you know, and what I'm doing is like, this lights me up and makes me want to live life to the fullest. Sure, I was a builder and I had lots of other purposes before what I'm doing now. But being a parent and teaching this tradition, I mean, it's unbelievable the driving force that holds and with me and inspires me to be in life. So my answer is, yeah, I totally believe we have a purpose. And it doesn't have to be as career orientated or externally orientated, as my purpose has to be so external. It can be just, it can be anything. Spread kindness to myself.
Yeah.
Be kind to myself. There's my Dharma. That's a good Dharma to have anyway. But there's such a broad field, it doesn't mean we have to be a rock star or we have to be a leader in a field of any kind. We just have to fulfill whatever that thing is. And it's a motivating force. Yeah, it's a big one. It's a huge one.
I feel that a big part of that, I think what I learned from you and other teachers like Ayurveda, the part of Ayurveda is like the reason why a lot of us or some of us get sick is that failure of wisdom, failure to unravel our potential, and I think so many people can relate to that when we're not. I even know myself when I was in Bali and I had a year not doing anything, and before I found this tradition and stuff, and
Yeah.
I was just seeking pleasure, which was great for a time, and it was really fun. But there was
Bali's perfect for that.
yeah, but that's the thing, and it also comes to a point where you're okay. I'm in my comfort zone now. Like I feel like you need that fire in your belly, and even just like interviewing you and other people, it lights me up so much. Like I'm like almost like so excited. I can't, I had to do my meditation beforehand just to contain my excitement. But would you say that how have these traditional teachings, obviously they've inspired me and my purpose, but how have they inspired other people that you've taught over the years? Like how have they inspired people to find their own purpose, not necessarily linked to Ayurveda yoga, but they've used this as a methodology to untap that into that potential that has led them into whatever purpose that lights them up.
So what was the actual, I think I get the question.
Like how does the methodology, like how does these sister sciences, yoga, Tantra, Ayurveda, for those of people who maybe haven't heard of it, I know a lot of them probably have, but for people that maybe haven't heard of what is this, weird science that's old and,
How does it inspire? Oh yeah, for sure. And I don't know, it just sparked something else in me real quick, which I'll bring up before I'll get back to that, and then you might have to remind me. But to get into these systems and get inspired, I think it's a great question you ask, because it brings a few things up into me that I think are really important to know for people coming into yoga in whatever realm. You don't have to be a professional yoga teacher, because this does not have to be a career. I think a lot of people come in and do a teacher training and feel this pressure that they have to be a teacher. My Dharma is a teacher. I love yoga, so my Dharma is to be a teacher.
Yeah.
This is a confusing part, I think, for a lot of people, and I think it's great that you asked this question about how does these systems inspire you to do life. It doesn't have to be inspire you to be a yoga and Ayurveda practitioner. If it does, wonderful, but it doesn't have to. Like, don't feel pressured by that. I think a lot of people get stuck there and then they get confused on what their purpose is. The way these systems inspire you just to do whatever you do in life better is, if I look at it in a systematic way, in which I sort of teach this lecture called The Three Rivers, and there are these systematic columns that are sort of ideals, and the moon, sun, fire, and the mental healing process, and they're just linear models, and it depends on your starting point, and they don't operate as linear as they're mapped out like this. We know that. But if we're looking at them linearly, we could say that Ayurveda prepares your body for optimal living in it. So your spirit is in a great vehicle. It's better than I'd rather have a really nice car than a piece of shit that's falling apart. And it's more just about the functionability. I mean, I like certain looks in cars as well, but I want an optimal running vehicle to go on my journey. And that's what Ayurveda does for your body. I'd rather sit in a cruisy car with nice seats and a great stereo. Everything's working. The tires are good. The brakes are good. The engine's powerful. I can get to where I want to go in comfort without having to worry about, getting jump started on the side of the road or wheel fall. So that's Ayurveda for your body. So you're just going to be optimal in your physical body. That's a great experience in itself. You can enjoy all the pleasures of your physical body, which is pretty good, but it can also help you perform your Dharma or do your work or do whatever, So that's step one, really, to inspiring people. And then we go into the sort of classical yoga, the mind element of classical yoga, Patanjali yoga, which helps us get our operating system in order. So we start understanding how the mind operates. What are these old patterns and habits that are uninspiring or keeping us sort of blocked in a certain way or stuck in a certain way of thinking and operating in the world? Classical yoga helps us uncover what they are, expose them, and teaches us how to change those patterns into new ones that start unlocking our potential. So they get everything out of the way of your potential shining. You know, and then if we want to look at in Tantra, I mean, Tantra covers all the fields, so it's hard to categorize any of these things really. But Tantra then just taps us into how to masterfully be in the world. You know, so how to use your mind, how to get everything away that's covering the light of your soul and let you be fully you. So that's how they do it. There's just this sort of a systematic approach that just sets you up to be open and receptive to what the universe is telling you to do, whether that be a professional motocross rider or a nurse or a yoga teacher or an Ayurvedic practitioner or a singer or a vet or a great mother or a great father. It's just allowing you to do it from this soul level. So they set you up in order to live your life to the fullest, you know, and like we could go into each one individually, you know, in great depth. I'm actually doing a workshop on that, so I'll maybe plug that at the end because it takes a little while, but it just opens you up to this deeper sense of wisdom that allows you to walk into your life that's going to be more fulfilling than just operating from a lower capacity of the mind that kind of keeps us in a certain way, you know. A lot of people think the government and all these, you know, conspiracies, and they're trying to suppress us and keep us in these herds. Well, that may or may not be true. I don't know. Maybe it is. But I think it's really more we're keeping ourselves locked in these herd mentalities. We're keeping our own selves imprisoned. I don't feel imprisoned by the government. I'm lucky where I live and what I do, but that was also part of my decisions. You know, so that's how these systems help you to do your best life and inspire you to do whatever it is. And that's what I say when I'm marketing our trainings. I'm like, this is to inspire you to live your life. It doesn't have to be you don't have to just do yoga poses all day and meditate all day. In fact, that does not sound that fun to me. I've done it and it's okay, but I'd rather be in surfing and doing other stuff, you know, going be with my family. So if you just dedicate a certain amount of time to fine tuning your instrument and connecting to soul, you know, what opens up in life is immense. So that's how it inspires people to live. It just fine tunes all layers of our being, you know, to be receptive and also how to masterfully move through the world. That's what it does, you know, in a very non-detailed kind of an explanation of that.
No, I love hearing different people's perspectives because everyone has such a different way of sharing the wisdom and how. When did you first get initiated into the Sri Vidya lineage, and what is that kind of process like? Obviously, you have to earn your stripes. You can't just come in and say, "Give me my badge." But how did that?
In India, you could probably do that in India for a couple $100. Just rock in and I'm having some fun. But you can. I'm not lying. God, I got to go back into this, but I remember having my first private with Rod. Gosh, I believe in 2009 or 2010, maybe. It was around that time, and that was when I was initiated into the tradition, into ParaYoga, and to some degree into the lineage of Sri Vidya, you know. And I guess this is a good little platform to talk a little bit about Sri Vidya, the little that I know about it, this great system that I am a child of. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about Sri Vidya because it's a pretty incredibly intricate sort of thing, you know. It's not just Tantric Hatha Yoga. That's not Sri Vidya. I mean, it could be a sense of some little part of the system, but it's not the bigger part of Sri Vidya. It's a very specific practice and it's a very specific sort of worship. So I've been initiated as a child into the lineage for sure. So that's what happens. And now you sort of, it's really governed by the teacher, whether you're ready for it or not. That's transmission, you know, when you may ask for it, you may not ask for initiation, you know, there's sort of some laws you're meant to ask the teacher 3 times, and I don't really follow all those rules. I just don't think they're rules anyway. They're just sort of funny things written in some of the ancient texts. It doesn't always apply as literally as we read them. So, you know, I just worked and worked. I wasn't eager to be initiated or anything. It wasn't like everything will be good when I'm initiated. It just happened kind of naturally. And so that was it, you know. And then you're given it. You sit down with your teacher, and this is how it happened for me. And chat, and you know, connected already before that, and he already had a mantra in mind for me anyway. It was just a matter of us sitting together in that time, opening up, and then I was initiated with my first mantra. And what I can tell you about initiation into a lineage is, you know, for me personally, something shifted pretty dramatically in my world. You know, whether it was the alignment of planetaries in my astrological charts, which it was partially in line with that, which has all got to do with everything anyway, and whether it be initiation or marriage or being born, it's all in there to some degree. But I definitely felt like, kind of like I explained at the start, it's like, get people into the stream. Initiation is like, okay, here you go into the stream to another level. It's like the stream is now a class 5. What's the highest class? Rapid. It's like a class 5 rapid of consciousness and progression. So it was just like, here you go, here's your raft, hang on, or let go, whatever way you want to do it. And, you know, and I was doing the practices, and I was really dead. I was actually in Ayurvedic school, I think, when I got initiated. I was in Ayurvedic College, California College of Ayurveda. So I was practicing a lot. It was one of the few times I had a lot of time to do whatever I wanted. You know, I was studying, which was very intense, but I could practice. You know, I took time off work to do this training and do this course. And talk about, you know, I don't like to throw manifestation where it sounds a bit new agey, but talk about, you know, Sankalpa Shakti. Be careful about what, you know, be conscious of what you're wishing for when you start dealing with these energies, because you'll get them.
Yeah, I know.
So then it's like you have to be clear, get really clear. And I felt that earlier on. I'm like, wow, I feel the power of this tradition, you know, and it's through teacher, but it's the tradition. It's bigger than any of us teachers. It's way bigger than any of us teachers. It's all the teachers and sages combined times a gazillion is what the tradition is. It's consciousness itself. So it's major form, and it's just how much we align and allow ourselves to align with that force. And then it's like the power is almost inconceivable. So I kind of I sort of felt like I had to back it off a little bit initially. I was like, things are sped up a bit too much. I'm going to actually back off the amount of repetitions of this mantra I'm doing just for a little bit. Wow. till I can sort of, you know, feel it a little bit more. Yeah. And then, boy, and then it was, I don't know, it was quite a while later. I think it was 5 years of doing that mantra until I got my second mantra, which was sort of a bit more in depth in towards the Sri Vidya tradition. And, you know, and after that one, it was like children and this, and it was, you know, another level of initiation, like another door was unlocked for me at that point. So that's what it was like for me, you know, and it's such an honor to be part of a tradition, and I, you know, it's an honor and it's a great sort of responsibility. All these things that I'm more than willing to take on, you know. It's a big responsibility. I see it as a big responsibility, and I treat it as such, you know.
The past.
Yeah, so amazing. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah.
Do you have a Sankalpa Shakti? What are you working with at the moment? Would you like to share it?
Oh, it's been a while since I've actually sat down and written one out, you know, but what I'll tell you, you know, and this was during the 4 Desires training, and it was, I can't remember, the timeline's pretty blurry. I've done so much in the last 20 years. It's sort of, I'd have to really do a timeline, but I can't remember when I did the 4 Desires. It was probably in 2014 or something. All I can say is my Sankalpa Shakti, I'm living in it more than I could have imagined right now. It was something to do with I'm thriving in my dharmic work. I didn't even have a child at that point, but I have a child and a family. And it was just something along the lines of my work is thriving, there's an abundance flowing, and I have a loving family unit. And that's exactly where I am at. So.
Yeah, I remember doing the training in May with Tanya, and since then everything's changed in my life. And I think just having that, I think faith as well, like having that faith. I think sometimes when we're doing our practices, and for some of the listeners listening that are kind of, they know what we're talking about, when you're doing the practice, there'll be a point sometimes where you have that moment of maybe darkness or or something goes on in your life, and there's at that point I'm like, okay, I'm doing my practices, I'm getting up early, I'm doing everything that I should supposed to be doing. Is my practice working? And that, I don't know if you've obviously felt that throughout your life, obviously maybe not so much now, but it's having that faith and always, coming back to the lineage and the practices, and really it's a consistent thing. It's not something you can dabble in and out of. It really has to be a daily embodiment to really, I believe, to bear fruits. Would you say that, throughout your life of this lineage of being a part of it, you've lost faith, or you've always been very, very strong and believed that everything that you put your effort in will manifest?
Oh, it's such a good question. I think it does bring up another point that I think is so valuable for students initially. How can I put it in a way? So I don't want to market this sort of system as like you come in, you do your mantras and you'll get everything you wish for. I'll be through the ringer like you wouldn't believe, as along the line. It's sort of like I heard my wife Mia say it ages ago in a post. It's like, I feel like God is completely holding and supporting me and slapping me at the same time. And I've had a lot of years like that, a lot of years. I've practiced for a lot of years, and I think this is really helpful. So I'm glad you brought the question up. I wouldn't want to put the, sort of present it in the way that if you just meditate, even if you're meditating 1-2 hours a day, that everything's going to run smoothly for you. Things still don't run smoothly for me sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm just a lot better at dealing with them. So it's not a lot like, but you also do get better at making happen what you want to happen. Your desires will manifest when you're dealing with this much Shakti. So, make sure the intention's coming from a place. But yeah, you're right. The consistency's been the key for me. And I always did have faith, and I don't pretend that I don't have fear and doubt. That's just silly.
Yeah.
I think anyone that tells you they don't have fear and doubt is either lying or they're lying, or they don't know. To a certain extent, It's nice to sit here and say, I have absolutely no doubt. It's all 100%. That's just not true for me. I think if anyone has a mind, there's some doubt in there somewhere, or they're about to dissolve into thin air. So, through the seemingly rough times I've had after being initiated, don't think everything went smoothly from initiation. I've had some pretty, I got divorced before initiation, but, there's been other pretty hectic things that have happened after that. But you're given the tools to deal with it all. So the key is definitely spending as much time in that place where you do have 100% faith. That's that sort of non-dual place. Because as soon as you step out of non-dual reality, there's good and bad is somewhere there, So if you can spend as much time with your soul as possible in that place, so you get familiar with that hub of yourself, then that's where the real faith comes from. It's there and it's always there. And then anything that life throws at you, you can come back to that place. It doesn't mean you are going to be maybe 100% graceful with dealing with the situation, or you're not going to feel angry or sad or pissed off or doubtful or something at some point. But the more time you spend in that space and experience it, the more that when those situations arise, you can access that space and know it's there. even if you're not experiencing it fully at the moment, you know it's there, and it helps you deal with the situation in a much more in a much more honorable kind of a progressive way, respond to situations. So yeah, definitely the hub is to be consistent, have the right guidance for sure, and expect turbulence. You're going to hit it,
Quicker,
You
I
just
think, quicker than most, because you're really burning through it.
well, that's good. Yeah, life will throw some bigger things at you to deal with. It's about growth then.
Yeah.
And I've had some good ones this last year. Oh man, I've had some of the best ones I've had.
What's the best one you had this year?
I can't say what the best one I've had this year is, but but look, even a thing like we got our daughter. This is something I haven't really shared anywhere. I've shared it with friends, but our daughter, this vibrant, vital, young, just she's just adorable and intelligent, smart, and everything's wonderful. But she's had this husky voice, since sort of she could talk, and it got more and more husky. And initially, it was really cute. And then it got really to a point where she couldn't really speak easily. It was really straining. So we got it checked out last year, and a few months ago, we thought we better get it checked out. So she had to go under to have a laryngoscopy or whatever they've called, a camera down to look at it.
Yeah.
And she's got diagnosed with this very rare condition in her vocal cords. So so when something happens with your child like that, it's really, you have to really reach into the center core of your being and go, okay, now where's the faith? Yeah. Let's access that faith, because everything on the outside's just goes into the worst scenarios and whatever. And so anyway, we're in that process, and it's going to be okay, and I have total faith around it. But it was just one of those moments where it's like, you just don't know what life's, just because I meditate and I've been doing this for years, and everyone's still going to die. Disease still can happen. Anything can still happen. I've got to just have a perspective around how to look at it and how to relate to it, and then govern my actions from that higher perspective. That's what's changing my life. I mean, shit still happens. Maybe not as dramatic as back in the early 20s, but still, things still happen, Yeah. Things still happen. So, yeah. So the reason for practicing so consistently is so you can access that place when these situations arise. Because you will get tipped over for sure. You just get better at it, and you get through it quicker, and you come out even stronger on the other side. It won't knock you around as much.
Yeah.
I don't know if I even answered the question there, but
I just love listening to you, your wisdom. And I'm just like, give me more.
I don't know how long I'm talking for. I might be like doing half an hour rants at the moment. I'm not
no,
sure.
I love it. But yeah, I would love to maybe share with the listeners. Obviously you're you're probably, I think, one of the only teachers in Australia that teaches the ParaYoga Master trainings. Maybe you can speak to the individual trainings. I know you've got a couple coming up, not just with ParaYoga, with your own stuff, but maybe you can speak to anyone that wants to dive into these trainings, and maybe where's a good place to start, or if they are a bit more advanced, maybe there's different levels, obviously, for everyone.
Yeah, well, I don't know where to start with that. So they're different schools. I have my own school, which is my name. I was going to rebrand. I used to be Prana Vidya. I'm Brad Hay at the moment, so very creative. So I have my school, which I run a 200-hour training. I haven't done that for a long time, but we're actually doing it for the first time in about 5 years this year online. So I have that. And then I have a 300-hour advanced training, which is done in 7 different 5-day modules. And 4 of these 5-day modules are ParaYoga Master trainings, which are trainings from my teacher's school. And it's a very unique situation. It's only pretty new, For me, I just got authorized as a level 3 teacher, I don't know, a bit over a year ago now. And he's only opened up this level 3 a couple of years ago. It's been level 1, level 2 ParaYoga teachers, but no one's ever been allowed to teach the ParaYoga Master trainings. You can just call your classes ParaYoga. And ParaYoga is one of the leading schools, just for those that don't know ParaYoga, and Rod Stryker, Yoga Rupa Rod Stryker, as he's known more so these days, is, potentially one of the leading schools in the States on traditional Tantric yoga. And, seeping into the rest of the world as one of the leading, authentic, in-depth, comprehensive trainings around. So 4 of my 5-day trainings are actually, I've been authorized to teach 4 of Yoga Rupa's trainings. I don't know how long he's been teaching. It must be creeping on 20 years. He's had his master training, which is, I think, 9 of these 5-day trainings. So 4 of mine are those. And then I have another 3 that are my own, where I bring more of the Ayurveda into 2 of them. So 2 of them are Ayurvedic Yoga Specialist trainings. And one of them is a Yoga Nidra restorative training. So that's really the bulk of what I'm teaching. That's what all my efforts going into this, this last couple of years is these trainings. I would start with, I think it's my signature training is the Ayurvedic Yoga Specialist. It's a 5-day, and it's the foundation of all of these arts, of the Vedic arts. It's the foundation of classical yoga. It's the foundation of Tantric yoga. It's the foundation of Vedanta. It introduces you to the principles of Ayurveda, not really Ayurvedic medicine, more of just the Ayurvedic principles of nature.
Yeah.
So we understand the qualities of nature and ourselves and how everything interacts. And then you sort of learn how to bring these into either your yoga practice or your life or your diet or your relationships, but they're a set of universal principles. And I think they're one of the most important things to learn at the start of the journey for anyone doing anything, So that's a good one to do first. I'm actually doing that live online. I wasn't prepared with my schedule, but it is up here. Live online in February, I'm starting it. So I'm going to do all of my trainings this year live online again.
Amazing.
And I start with the first one of those in February 22nd to 26th. And that's the Ayurvedic Yoga Specialist level 1. I have 2 levels of that one. So that's a great place to start with anything, whether you're doing my trainings or Rod's trainings or both.
Yeah.
Start with that. So yeah, I don't know. If you go to my website, it'll take too long to do the whole sort of discussion on my 300-hour training. But if you do these trainings with me, the Yoga Rupa trainings, one of the unique things, and there's not too many, I think this one may be the only one situation in the world where you get, if you're doing a 300-hour advanced training, if you do ParaYoga training with me, you get both certification in my school for my 300-hour, and you get certification for ParaYoga school. Because usually you have to do them all in one school, all of the 300 hours. So you get a dual certification. So
wow,
double the price. I never even thought of that. No, I'm kidding. So that one's coming up then. I'm going to do them all throughout the year, and this year I'm actually offering early on in the year, because a lot of students don't know who I am and what they might not like me. So it's good to have a sample of training. I am doing a bunch of little 3-hour workshops at the end of January and partly into February this year on Ayurveda. The first one is Ayurveda, what do I call it? The Divine Code of Nature. I'm so proud of that name for a workshop. Ayurveda, the Divine Code of Nature. So it's just a 3-hour introductory to Ayurveda and what it is, even just like if you don't know what Ayurveda is, that's going to be a great 3-hour session for you. It's on the 23rd of January, Sydney, Melbourne time. I think we're doing 9 a.m. till noon. I should have had this prepared, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And then I've got multiple others. I do a weekend on the dosas, which is 3 different 3-hour workshops on each of the dosas. We do a practice and we talk about each dosha and run through some things. I've got other bits and pieces, 3-hour workshops that are kind of all intros to my 5-day training. So might be, jump into those if you're interested in, and you want sort of to feel out what the teachings are about and feel out how the platform is, and if you're into me or not, it's good to be in your teacher. So it might be better to try. I've got one of the short ones if you're not sure, and see how, if you like the the style of teaching and that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to sign up for as many as I can. But I just, I think for anyone listening, it's such a great, area. Even if you don't want to do it, be a practitioner or anything, like you said, you just do it for your own wisdom. And your own health and well-being, which I think right now is like, adversity is also is really helps us to grow. And I think our businesses, even though they're online and still we can't see people in person, it's such a great place to be in the health and wellness field, and really empowering people to take charge of their health, which is, I think, what we need. We need more people looking after their health and well-being, and taking that responsibility. So it's very powerful. Yeah, the divine code of nature. You are creative, Brad.
Pretty good, isn't it? I can get it when when I have just some space to be creative. A lot of the time I don't get a lot of space to just be creative. I'm too busy having to calculate children and time and family and work and everything, which is it's all right.
No, I know what you mean.
I do like that one. It's a good one.
But yeah, have you got anything else coming up that we want to know about, or is that all of it? I mean, I will put
I'll do a quick plug. I had nothing on my schedule because of this whole COVID thing. I was just sort of frozen into, what do we do this year? And I'm seeing it with other teachers. Even Rod, I'm like, he doesn't have much on the schedule either for this year, because we've been waiting to see what's going to happen. But we're about to release the whole first 6 months schedule. So I do have a number of these 5-day trainings coming up. You can do them live. It's sort of an 8:30 to 4:30 schedule, Sydney, Australia time. But with those, I record them each day and put the recordings up each night, so people in other time zones can join them, or you can watch partial live, catch up on the recordings. You get the recordings to these trainings for 8 weeks after the training. And if you want to even just watch the recordings, we have them on either pre-recorded sale, or you can sign up for the live ones and just sort of do them in your own time over the 8 weeks. So that format's been really popular. That's really opened it up to mothers and parents and people in Europe and everything. So I have a few. I have my level 1 Ayurveda coming up in February 22nd. I have Tantra Shakti, which is a ParaYoga master training as well, which is they're all unreal trainings. That's in March 22nd. And then I have Secret of the Sutras in April 12th. And then Vinyasa Krama in May the 3rd. So these are all on my site. But these are all my 5-day modules of my 300-hour training. You don't have to be doing a 300-hour training. You don't have to be going for certification. They're just incredibly in-depth trainings. Then I have, like I say, all these little 3-hour workshops coming up from the end of Feb. Ayurveda is on, so in January. I won't read them all out. Maybe I'll just plug people to the workshop. But one of the big things we are doing this year is I'm actually doing a 200-hour Ayurvedic Yoga Specialist Embodied Wisdom training with my wife, who's also an incredible Ayurveda. She's a nurse. She's been teaching for a long time as well. She's got a wealth of knowledge. So she's going to co-teach the 200-hour with me, which is live online also May 24th. And it goes over 5 weeks online, and that'll be all recorded, and you'll have the recordings for 6 months as well. So if you want a Yoga Alliance 200-hour certified training that's steeped in Ayurveda and traditional Tantric Hatha Yoga, this is the one.
I've been looking at that one. Like I've been doing so many trainings this year, but I haven't done it so much more Ayurveda trainings. So now I'm back into, like, I want to specialize in something specific.
Yeah.
Cool. But I'm really into, I don't know if your wife does, but if you know much about like fertility and Ayurveda and helping women,
Yeah, absolutely. That's her specialty. That's actually her specialty.
Wow.
She's worked with quite a few women, helping them get pregnant, pre and postnatal health. That's her passion. And she's going to be doing a lot more in that field this year. So keep an eye out for that. We just need to set her up. But yeah, she's got a lot of knowledge with Ayurveda. She grew up, with in a very sort of spiritual family, and stepfather was a world famous doctor actually, and healer in a sort of a very alternative way. So she's grown up with a lot, but she's also a certified nurse. She's got a lot of knowledge on Ayurveda, and she's an incredible yogi. So yeah, she has a lot of women's health stuff, and she'll be doing quite a bit of that in the training as well. And there'll be more workshops. She's going to open up her field quite a bit more this year as well. So it's a great sort of combination, her and me in the training, I think, anyway.
How does it feel to work with your wife? Like, that's so cool.
We've been working together from day one, funny enough.
Oh, have you?
Pretty much, our first 3 weeks together, I was doing a remodel on her, on her mum's property in Maui. And then after that, I had a teaching gig in Sri Lanka, a 3-month-long teaching gig in Sri Lanka. I used to do each year. And that was our second 3 months together. We lived together and we taught together right off the bat. So we teach together great, really.
Wow.
really yeah, it's one of those harmonious things. It doesn't always go that way, but we
She's more
we do
water,
really
isn't she?
we do really well, thank God.
She balances your pitta, your fire.
Yeah, she does have this lovely nurturing, steady vibe. I'm pretty ambitious and fired up, which is great. That gets her sort of a bit more of that, but she's got the smooth feminine edge, which I love to, the balance of, for sure. Yeah, it's a good balance. I mean, it's really not, I'm plugging ourselves, but I think it's really sweet to have a couple teaching a training, to have the perspectives, a little bit of the mixed perspectives that are on the same page.
Yeah.
But we are, men and women are different, and it's really nice, I think, to have just both energies, and both sort of guidance from both, and perspectives that align.
Yeah.
They may be sort of somewhat coming from a different sort of viewpoint, but they align. I think it's a really helpful, incredibly helpful tool, especially if you want to be in a relationship.
Yeah, no, I interviewed, I don't know if you know Michael King last week.
Oh, of course, yeah, he's awesome.
He's amazing. And he said to me, he was like, Babaji, his guru said, but he didn't take from this. He said, that's something that I left with Babaji. He said, you shouldn't mix spirituality and work and spirituality and sexuality, or like your Dharma with your relationship. But Michael was like, no, I'm not going to take that one. And obviously him and his wife work together and they do really well. So there's
Yeah.
a difference of opinions in that scope.
I wonder if his teacher's a renunciate or a householder.
Yeah, renunciate.
Yeah. There you go. Here's one here. I'll give you a free tantric lesson here. If you're a householder, get yourself a householder teacher. That's what the textbooks say. That's what the teachings say. It's a different set of teachings and practices for householders than renunciates. Yeah. If you got a renunciate teacher and you're trying to be married, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
That's why I chose Rod as my teacher. I like the bearded guy in the cave. I'm sure I can learn a ton, but I want a family. I want a business, and I'm going to be, and I want to thrive in this spiritual sort of realm. And so that's why. That was partially why I chose Rod as my teacher. A big part why, actually.
Yeah.
And I know why now. I know even more why now. So that's an important little part of it, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, different teachings. Oh, the horses are at it. Look out.
Yeah, my dogs are outside barking. But yeah, no, a big thanks to Rod and the tradition, and for you, and for just the ripple effect that it has on so many people, even like the people that I am now working with and teaching. A lot of them are probably going to sign up to your training because they want to become Ayurvedic practitioners. And so
wonderful.
It's just, the ripple effect is so powerful. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. I feel that here, it was I hadn't planned on moving back to Australia, but we moved back here 2 years ago, and now it's so apparent why. Yeah. There's just so many people hungry for these teachings in Australia, and they weren't quite getting them, they weren't getting them. And it feels like that is a huge part of Dharma now. And the community here is incredible, and they're incredibly open and receptive to it. So it feels amazing. Like the ripple effect, feels like it's just powerfully spreading throughout Australia now, which is unreal. It's really, it feels really, really powerful and really, really good to me. So
you're proud of yourself.
Yeah, and you working with it's exactly right. And you one little person in Bali, and then you ripple out to and they go out. This is the idea. This is what we're all part of. This is the tradition. It's not like we're trying to recruit people. I don't care if people come to this. I gain nothing by someone coming to the tradition, other than I get to see someone in this incredibly supportive powerhouse field and healing. That's what I get. So yeah, I do get something, actually. I get a big reward out of seeing someone transform their life. So other than that, I couldn't care less.
You're burning your previous karma, back in the old bad boy days.
Oh yeah, I had a lot when I came into this world. That was just sort of playing some of it out. It's all right. It makes for good teaching now, makes for good stories too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you and everything that you are, and I can't wait to to join you on one of the trainings. I'm not sure which one yet, but I'll have to figure out and go for it. But no, I loved interviewing you. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. And I hope you guys listening got some juicy bits of information. I'm definitely gonna re-listen to it and take notes.
Sure. Great, awesome. Thanks, bro. I really appreciate you bringing me on here, and stoked you've jumped into it all. I really love it. I think you really fit well in it sits very well on you in the field what you're doing. So I'm pretty stoked to see that.
Yeah, I feel the Shakti in me, and it's just like eventually I'm using it for amazing ways instead of the not so good tendencies that often take our attention. But now it can be channeled through other forms of creativity, which is beautiful. So
yeah. Awesome.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. See you next week.
Yeah, thanks,
bye
guys.
And I'll put all of Brad's stuff on the show notes so you can connect with him and the offerings as well. Great.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to connect with us, my Instagram is @BriarRoots, @the Dharma Journey. Please feel free to send us your favorite episode, and we'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to reach and connect with me further, I offer weekly women circles every Sunday, also Ayurvedic healing programs, consultations. So all of my details are at the bottom. Thank you so much for listening. This is really a part of the Dharma Journey movement to bring us closer together, connection, community, collaboration, and really inspire one another on our path towards liberation. Thank you so much for listening. Have an incredible day. I hope.